I mentioned during my Josie Wales video that I'm kind of going through my physical media shelf, and I realized that I hadn't watched First Blood, the very first Rambo film, in a really long time, and I've owned them for a bit. And honestly, I don't know if I've ever seen the second one or the third one in full, because I just kind of caught bits and pieces of them when they were on TV when I was little. So I wanted to check those out, and in order to prepare, I needed to start with the original. I am Jason Kleberg, this is Force 5, and here are 5 reasons that you might want to check out First Blood from 1982. Reason number 5, this film has one of the best explosions ever put to film. It's interesting in itself to see how this film morphs from the sensibilities of the dramatic forward action films of the 70s in the first half to the excess violence and explosions that define the 80s in the second. And there's no better way to do this than with big-ass explosions. For the scene, John Rambo brings a truck to a gas station. He tosses a lighter into the gas that's on the ground, and it leads to blowing the truck up, of course. But then the gas pumps start spewing fire. The entire gas station blows up, and if that wasn't enough, the cars in the lot next door start popping off like popcorn. It's an incredible explosion, and it really brings the energy that would directly influence the action films that came afterward, and certainly dictated how Rambo 2 would feel. Reason number 4, outside of the explosions, the action is just really great. Whether Rambo's knocking a bunch of cops through windows, dodging sniper shots from a helicopter while hanging from a cliff, or just hunting unskilled volunteer officers through the Oregon forest, it's exciting and kinetic. There's never a dull moment, and after only about 10 minutes of setup, Stallone's wig-wearing stunt double is knee-deep in trouble, riding a dirt bike and being chased by Brian Dennehy into the forest. It's a really great extended car chase that goes from the town's paved roads to the trails to the dense forest. Really great car chase. Reason number 3, while the story of how Rambo got to the screen was long and tumultuous, this is a great example of an extremely effective book-to-film adaptation. There were several scripts written starting in like 1975, including drafts by Walter Newman and David Rabe, and many rewrites of the script that ended up being filmed, one of which was written by Sylvester Stallone himself. There are a ton of notable people who were in the running to play Rambo at different times, including Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Steve McQueen, and Clint Eastwood before landing on Sylvester Stallone. There were a lot of changes from the book, including the ending, which I won't get into here to keep things spoiler-free, but I think it worked out pretty well. And at just 90 minutes, this cut has almost no fat and works extremely well. This is a great adaptation. Reason number 2. This is a very different take on the 70s or early 80s Vietnam film. There are plenty of Vietnam films that glorify violence, and there are plenty that examine the effects of soldiers coming home, but this film feels very unique. It starts as Rambo comes to town and is immediately mistreated. The sheriff politely lets him know that he is unwelcome and offers to take him out of town. Now, it's not explained in the film, but in the book, it's because the sheriff was a Korean War vet and he was unhappy with the amount of attention being given to the Vietnam veterans. It's closer to a psychological drama than what you might think when you think about Rambo films, and it tackles alienation, human cruelty, and just a war that trained Americans to go off and kill and survive without training them, or society for that matter, how to return. And while the violence I've talked about is bombastic, it is also really tragic. And speaking of tragic, the number 1 reason that you might want to watch First Blood. Sylvester Stallone's performance as Rambo is incredible. When he's first walking into town, he's bright-eyed, he's excited to see an old friend, and after some disappointing news, he's hassled by the sheriff, and we quickly see his PTSD coming through, and his emotional state only gets worse when he's forced on the run by a vindictive, disrespectful police force. The ending of the film features a breakdown by a man chewed up and spit out by this war machine, and he finally releases his feelings to his colonel, but In my opinion, the most heartbreaking part of this film is when there's a police officer that is killed by no fault of Rambo himself, and with guns trained on him, he exasperatingly yells, "I didn't do it! I didn't do anything!" which of course sadly falls on deaf ears. Now, if you haven't seen First Blood, or only remember the knife, the headband, the traps, or if any of the reasons that I mentioned interest you, I highly recommend checking it out. It's an intense examination of a frightened, damaged veteran whose greatest battle began after the war had ended. If you've seen First Blood, what did you think of it? And what's your favorite Sylvester Stallone performance? Let me know down below in the comments.